Good morning, students. This is Dr. Kiran Deswal, Assistant Professor English, Government Bangar College, Ditwana. Today, in this video lecture, I will teach you the sonnet, The Sea and the Skylark, composed by modern English poet G.M. Hopkins. G.M. Hopkins was born in 1844 and was died in 1889, and this sonnet was published in his collection of sonnets entitled as Poems, and this collection was published in 1918. That's why he is known as a modern poet. Before starting the sonnet, I would like to discuss about this sonnet. Themes in the sea and the skylark. As I told you, it is a Italian sonnet, it is a classical sonnet, and a classical sonnet is divided into two parts. The first 8 lines are known as octave part, and the last 6 lines are known as the sestet part. So in the octave part, the poet tells the problem or the dilemma, and in the sestet part, he resolves the problem. He gives a solution. So, in this sonnet, the octave is purely descriptive, giving detailed imagery of the sea and skylark, as Hopkins forms as precise an inscape of them as he can. It is left to the sestate to make a comment, this time in the form of an exclamation rather than by posing a question, as he poses a question in his sonnets, The Starlight Night or the Spring. The sestet part sees the two things which, according to the Bible, were created by God. The sea and the skylark were created by the God. At shaming the man made town which lies behind him, both these two voices are a shame upon the town which is made by the man, because the town is dirty. And these two things, the sea and the skylark, are ever fresh. They are beautiful. They gives a beautiful picture of natural beauty. The town is a symbol of man's fall from a much better, more innocent prime. There is heavy irony here as Hopkins picks up the theme of the ugliness of modern life and compares it to the uniqueness and beauty of nature, which is represented by the sea and the skylark. The irony springs from a further irony, though Downism and Christianity are often seen as opposed. Both agree that humankind is the highest form of development in the world. And in the Bible, the psalmist asks, imagery and symbolism in the sea and the skylark. The second quatrain centers on the skylark, one of a number of birds Hopkins' attention is drawn to in his poetry. When we read Hopkins' sonnets, we find out that he is in love with birds. Through the imagery of birds, he describes his ideas. Like in some of in his poems, we see falcon and threshes are two other examples. On his left hand lie the sand dunes over which the lark is soaring. The imagery seeks to convert sound into sight. This is the beauty of this sonnet. As we are asked to see the bird's song as a musical score, pouring out of his throat, then falling like a fisherman's line, reeling out. It is not a straight line, as there are kinks in it where the line has been pressed into the reel. Each kink represents a bar line, and the line is being rewound onto another rail, which the bird will take when he swoops downwards so he can begin again. Such a complicated image is often called a conceit, and Hopkins here uses conceit in this sonnet. Conceit is an extended metaphor. The word rewiden is a play on words as a fisherman rewinds the reel, but also an instrument is winded or played as in winding a horn. Commentary on the sea and the skylark. As I told you, it is a regular Petrarchan sonnet rhyming A, B, B, A, A, B, B, A, C, D, C, D, C, D. So here we find a variation in the sestet part with a clearly marked division between octave and sestet, with unusually each section being again divided into half into two quatrains or two tercets as the case may be. In the octave, Hopkins compares two ancient sounds, that of the sea and that of a songbird, the skylark, one of whose favorite haunts is sand dunes. The first quatrain deals with the sea. Hopkins is walking along the shore near the North Wales town of Ryle, some 6 or 7 miles from the college. Ryle was then an up and coming tourist resort on account of its wide sandy beach. Walking westwards, he would have the sea on his right hand. He remarks particularly on the contrasting sounds of the high and the low tide. So, come to our poem. Let us start our sonnet. As I told you, that the first quatrain describes the sea, the noise of the sea. Hopkins was walking, and on his right hand he hears the noise of the sea, and on his left hand he hears the noise of the skylark. On ear and ear, two noises, two all to end. Both these noises were exist in past and they are still now there. So these voices are permanent. These voices are everlasting. Still they are very fresh. So these voices are old, outdated, but they are fresh. Trench right. On his right side, he hears the voice of the sea waves. The tide that rams means hits against the shore. He hears the voice of the rising of the waves and the falling of the waves. When the wave hits the shore, there is a sound, there is a noise. When the water rises, there is a flood, and the water falls down, there is a fall. So, with the flood or a fall, here we have alliteration. Low lull off or old roll. Low lull off. Here again we have alliteration. It is an example of onomatopoeia. Here Hopkins gave the effect of the sound of the water when it rises and falls. Frequenting, it is a continuous sound, it is a continuous voice. The waves hits the shore and the sound comes again and again. Frequenting there while moon shall veer and when. It is said that as tide in a sea rises and falls with the activities of the moon, with the 64 hours of the moon. The shining of the moon affects the tide in the sea. It's the gravitation power which affects the uh, waves of the sea. So the rhyme scheme of the first stanza is and soar, roar, went. So, in the first quatrain, we have the rhyme scheme A, B, B, A. Let us begin our second stanza. In the second quatrain, the poet talks about the skylark. On his left hand, beyond the land, of land, above the land. I hear the lark ascend. He hears the voice of the skylark who is ascending in the sky. And when the skylark flies in the sky, he sings his song. His rest fresh, rewidened, new skinned score. His song is everlasting. He never tires by of singing. In creeps of curl of wind winds rill. In creeps of curl of alliteration, wind winds rill. Again we have alliteration. And pour and pelt music. Skylark first pours the music in the air. He spreads the music in the air. He fills the air with his music and then he pelts it. He again takes it back till none is to spill nor spend. And the unique thing is that he pours out a lot of music, but it is never spent. It is everlasting, it is ever fresh. The rhyme scheme is ascend, score, pour, spend. Again we have A, B, B, A. Now sestet part begins, and in the sestet part the poet talks about the town. The town is made by man, and these two things, that is the sea and the skylark, these two things are made by the god. So Hopkins says that how these two things are same on this shallow and fragile town, because the town is dirty, it is made by the man, it is decayable, it will be destroyed, but the sea and the skylark will live forever. There is no freshness in the town because the town is made by man. Hovering right out of sordid turbid time. This town symbolizes our sordid time, our dirty time. Being pure, we call ourselves pure. Human beings are the supreme creation of the God. We life's pride. That's why we human beings are called life's pride and cared for crown. We just care for crown. We are too much busy with the materialism. We don't have time to see the beauty of the nature, have lost that cheer and charm of earth's past pride due to our doings, our exploitation. Earth has lost its cheer and its charm, which was owned by the earth in the past time. Our make and making, our doing, our creations are fragile, they are decayable. So our creations will break one day, our making will break one day, our making will be decay one day, and it our making will break, our making is breaking down to man's last dust, and it is turning into dust. We create something out of dust and it turns into dust at last. Here we have biblical reference. According to Bible, a man is created out of dust, and in the last he will turn into dust, he will become dust. Drain fast towards man, first line. We are destroying ourselves. We were created out of slime, out of dust, and in the last, on the doomsday, we will become dust, we will turn into dust. Thanks for watching.